95% of the time that people are interacting with your podcast, it's going to be on a podcast listening app on their phone. That could be Apple Podcasts or Pocket Cast or any number of great apps. But for the other 5% of the time, you really want them on your podcast website. Your website is going to be the central hub for your podcast. It brings together everything into one place. It's going to have links to all of those podcast listening apps. It's going to have your entire back catalog. It's going to have links to all of your social accounts. It's going to have podcast transcripts. It's going to have premium content. It's going to have everything branded for your show. And we want to have it all together in just one place that's easy to send people to. In this video, I'm going to show you how to customize your Buzzsprout podcast website so that it looks great for your show. I'm going to do all of this by showing you how I set up my podcast, Buzzcast. So first, I'm in my Buzzsprout account, and I'm going to scroll down. On the left, you can see my customizer, and on the right, the live view for my podcast. Now you get to pick a color. You can pick different fonts for the headings. Find one that matches your show. I went through all of these, and this Rubik one looks really good for the brand that I'm going for. You can pick out an image that would go across the top. Or if you're like me and you want to keep it a little bit more minimalistic, you can leave that off. My co-host has a podcast herself that's much more colorful. So you could check out Dreamful Bedtime Stories for a different direction that you could go in. So now I'm going to jump over to the podcast website and walk you through each of the pages that's included. The first page is the home page, which kind of branches out to everything. The second most important page is probably this follow page. This is the page that you're going to post on social media. This will probably be the link in your bio for social accounts. It's going to have links to all of the directories that I'm listed in. It's going to have my RSS feed, all of my social accounts, everything brought together in one page. All right, now let's go over to the episodes page. On the episodes page, you can see all 157 episodes that I've ever created. And you can also search for specific episodes by title, description, or the guest that was on the show. I'm going to search for artwork because I remember there was an episode where we talked about podcast artwork. And if I scroll down, here it is. That's the episode I was looking for. And now I can see the episode description. I can see all the links we referenced. I can see chapters, so I could jump into any specific part of the episode. And I could also click into the transcript if I wanted to search through or just look for a specific segment. But it's all brought together under this one page. All right, the next page I'd like to show is the About page. This is pulling in my podcast description, how long I've been podcasting, how many episodes I've done, as well as the people who create the podcast. A little bit more about that over on the contributors page. So this is where I have bios for all of the people who make the podcast. You get to see some images. Maybe mine's a little outdated. Kevin's has got a cowboy hat. Jordan's is the most professional of all, as always. But if I scroll down, I can actually see all of the guests that have been on my podcast. So some guests, like Adam Curry, have been on the podcast once. I could click this and see the one episode that he was on. But if I go back and scroll down, Tom Rossi, co-founder of Buzzsprout, has been on the podcast a bunch of times. So I could click in to any of these episodes and listen to it right there. All right, another page for you to look at would be fan mail. So before I go there, I want to show you this link right here. Send us a text. Podcasting can often feel one-directional, where I'm podcasting out to the world, but I'm not hearing much back from my audience. Fan mail is a way for people to reach out to your show and give feedback and give ideas or answer questions we've talked about, to send things in to me, the podcaster. So all of my show notes have a link to send us a text, and this is set up through Buzzsprout, through fan mail. And if people click it, it opens their texting app on their phone. They shoot us a text, and then we can read it. And some of them we decide to publish on our podcast website. So I just click, pin this to my podcast website, and they're out there. It kind of helps build a little bit of a feel of community. It feels like some of these are social proof. They're almost like reviews for the podcast. So if somebody was thinking, do I want to listen to this show? They could see people in Kissimmee, Florida are enjoying the podcast. All right, let's jump last to podcasts we love. So one of the things that's great about podcasting is that it's run by word of mouth, by people recommending podcasts to each other, not by algorithms. And as part of that, on Buzzsprout websites, you can recommend the other podcasts that you enjoy. So I really like Happy to Help. This is a podcast run by a leader of Buzzsprout's customer success. This is one of my shows. Here's a show that I really enjoy about the podcasting industry. All of these I can recommend on my website. And now one of the things I would really hate to leave off is the support page. So once you've grown your podcast a bit, you might want to monetize it. And with Buzzsprout subscriptions, you can set up either listener support, where people support your show on an ongoing basis, or you can offer premium content. I've decided to turn on listener support. So somebody could come in and say they want to support me for $5 a month, and they could fill out this information, and that amount will automatically be charged, and I will get that inside my Buzzsprout account. Now, all these things are brought together inside my podcast website. This is an easy way for me to set up a really beautiful place online for my podcast. Now, I've only shown you one example, Buzzcast, but the fun part is customizing your podcast website to match your unique brand. So I'm going to link to 3 other shows that I think will help inspire you and show you how different these can look. The first is Happy to Help, a customer support podcast run by the head of customer success at Buzzsprout. Podnews Weekly Review, which is an industry show. This website feels very professional. And Dreamful Bedtime Stories, which really leans into lots of colors and beautiful artwork there at the top. This is a bedtime story podcast run by my co-host over on Buzzcast. So all those are linked down in the description, so you can dive into any of these sites and see how they've been customized to give you a little bit more inspiration. With Buzzsprout, it's easy to create a professional podcast website that elevates your brand. I hope this video has answered all of your questions, but if you have any more, drop me a comment. I'd love to help, or reach out at support@buzzsprout.com. Thanks for watching, and as always, keep podcasting.